It's always been the goal of DAR to help the descendants of all patriots to honor their revolutionary achievements. Most of that is done through the hard work of dedicated genealogists. One generation, one ancestor, one discovery at a time. It's therefore important that we promote the many tools and programs that we offer to assist with research and support other organizations that stir interest in family history. It's therefore a distinct honor to present the 2020 DAR Media and Entertainment Award to an outstanding program that connects modern-day Americans with their frequently revolutionary relatives. Stephanie Boyd, Public Relations and Media Committee National Vice Chair, will introduce Henry Louis Gates Jr., host of the PBS series Finding Your Roots. Mrs. Boyd.
Good evening. I'm Stephanie Boyd from Los Angeles, California, and it's my honor to introduce the 2020 NSDAR Media and Entertainment Award. This prestigious award is given by DAR to programs that are outstanding in the entertainment field. This year's recipient was nominated by California's Santa Clara chapter, and while we had many interesting and exciting projects to consider, this stellar project and its producer were exceptional. The honor goes to the PBS series Finding Your Roots, special for its excellence in entertainment and education, and to its inspiring producer and host, Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr. Brother, friend, Harvard scholar, storyteller, patriot, historian, professor, and genealogist extraordinaire. We are thrilled to recognize his important work and thank him for his beautifully produced project. Now in its 6th season, each Finding Your Roots episode profiles famous public figures and celebrities, bringing their family histories to life while highlighting our diverse communities and cultures. People and communities who've contributed so much to the rich and complicated history of our country. Discovering their personal histories in Dr. Gates' words liberates us from mistruths about our differences and fosters a more human connection between us. And in these challenging times, the emotional connections his guests and viewers experience through these compelling stories allow us to understand the depth of our shared humanity.
Okay, ready?
Oh, yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's roll.
We're putting on a show.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
We gonna crack your cool.
Let's crack the code.
You're kidding. You're kidding. Holy smokes.
Wow.
Gotcha!
Whoa.
Oh my golly.
Oh la la. This is amazing.
I'm dying. This is fantastic.
You're looking at the picture of the white man who owned your family.
That's intense, man.
You descend from free people of color.
I feel this physically, here. I feel it here.
Birthplace of father, Africa. Birthplace of mother, Africa. Wow.
It's just a random piece of luck that I'm here at all, I guess.
It turns your family narrative upside down.
Upside down.
Yeah,
That's actually very moving.
it is.
It's moving. It's very moving.
This moment changed everything in the history of your family.
I have chills.
I'm gonna cry. That's so weird to know.
This is your family tree. Take
What?
Unfurl that and take a look.
Oh, look at this. Everybody. Whoa.
This is a record of all the
Oh
ancestors.
my God.
It makes me feel very little down here.
These are names I've never seen. This is amazing.
That's some pretty powerful stock. It's quite a soup.
Indeed.
When you hear like your friends talk about their German ancestors and their Irish ancestors and Italian ancestors, I can join in that conversation.
Yes.
It's cool to know that I have, there's a warrior's blood in me.
This is from your ancestral homeland. That is from Unterstinkenburg.
I think the best part of that is that they're leaving behind a place called Unterstinkenburg.
Yeah.
This is so wonderfully scandalous.
I'm proud of my ancestors. This is a great document.
My family got balls like this.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
This is when I'm like proud of being from where I'm from.
I've always thought the best of us is this combination. It's taking from everything to make something stronger.
You need to know your history. You need to know your roots.
This is the best time I've ever had in my whole life.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce our esteemed recipient of the NSDAR 2020 Media and Entertainment Award for Finding Your Roots, Dr. Henry Louis Gates, Jr.
Hello, my sisters of the Daughters of the American Revolution. I want to thank Robin Hurwitz, a genealogist who's a member of the Santa Clara chapter of the DAR, which also happens to be the home chapter of another genealogist with whom we've worked on Finding Your Roots, Victoria Kinnear. And I want to thank her for so very kindly nominating our PBS series for this wonderful award. And I'd like to thank President General Denise Van Buren for our selection. Denise, I have a free DNA kit for you anytime, day or night. Just text me and it's yours. Our series has been honored in so many ways before, most especially for me by the fact that we've become the most popular series on PBS. But no honor could possibly be more gratifying to me personally than this one from the DAR. Because as some of you might know, I'm a proud member of the Sons of the American Revolution. My brother Paul and I were inducted into the SAR in 2006 at the Society's 116th Annual Convention in Addison, Texas. And we were qualified for membership because we descend from a fourth great grandfather on my mother's line, a man named John Redmond, a free African-American man who served in the Continental Army between Christmas Day, 1779, and most probably November 15, 1783, when the rest of the 1st Virginia Regiment of Light Dragoons disbanded in Winchester, Virginia, where John Redmond had enlisted almost 4 years before. All of this, the identity of my fourth great grandfather, the fact that he had been free at least since the outbreak of the American Revolution, and that he had served in the Continental Army, were among the 3 biggest surprises in my entire life. Frankly, my sisters, I had absolutely no idea that any of this could be even remotely possible. I'd long been intrigued by my family's ancestry and had often wondered if I could be descended maybe from General Horatio Gates, the most famous Gates I'd ever heard of. That is until my long-lost cousin from Seattle, Bill, showed up. Still working on those autosomal DNA matches to find that genetic connection. Then after 1977, when Roots aired on ABC, about 8 years after I first visited the continent of Africa, I longed in vain to find my ethnic origins in Africa. But only Alex Haley could do that, right? I used to look with envy at those coats of arms for sale for about $50 on offer in the ad pages at the end of the New York Sunday Times Magazine. But deep down I knew that those Gateses were not my Gateses. So I invested in that fiction. And meanwhile, I waited, with the thoughts of finding my ancestry in my treasured chest of unfulfilled fantasies, and moved on to other things. And then, Finding Your Roots happened, a result of a letter I received from the geneticist Dr. Rick Kittles in the year 2000, which sparked a memory of a remarkable epiphany I'd experienced when I was 9 years old, when my dad showed my brother and me a photograph of the oldest Gates ancestor his family had ever discovered, my great-great-grandmother, Jane Gates, a former slave and a midwife. As an experiment, when we were inventing the format of what became Finding Your Roots, our production team decided to engage the services of the stellar researcher Jane Ailes to see what Jane could find in the archives of the region in which I grew up, and where it turns out that my ancestors had settled far longer than any of us had ever imagined. I was born in the Potomac River Valley in eastern West Virginia, about halfway between Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. But as it turns out, as Jane Ailes and our chief genealogist Johnny Cerny proved, my family on all sides of my family tree had been living in this area for some 200 years. And 3 sets of my 4th great-grandparents had become free by the year 1823, long before the Civil War. And one of these ancestors, that same John Redmond, had settled in this area around 1803, just 30 miles or so from where I was born. All this time, I was looking for my roots in Africa, and it turned out that my roots were virtually right under my feet. As the great poet T.S. Eliot famously put it, we shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Not known because not looked for, but heard, half heard, in the stillness between 2 waves in the sea. Since we started our PBS series back in 2005, I've come to believe that our ancestors continue to exist even after they've passed, in a kind of ancestral purgatory, and they remain suspended there, waiting for their descendants and researchers to find them. And once we do find them, we enable them to tell us their stories. Stories that really are about us ourselves, about aspects of ourselves that we've unknowingly and unwittingly inherited, like osmosis, from these very same ancestors. Our ancestors are ourselves, and we are the sum total of our ancestors. Literally, we carry the DNA in our genomes from every one of our ancestors back 6 generations. That's about 200 years. And DNA from lots more ancestors even further back than that. Each of us, through our genomes, is a walking family tree. Let me conclude my remarks with the thought that a friend of mine, Mr. Bruce Raymer, the chair of the board of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, shared with me on Memorial Day when he heard the news about this award from my dear friend and unflagging supporter, Patricia Harrison, the brilliant president and CEO of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, after Pat had joyfully shared the news of this award with her board. And this is what Bruce Raymer wrote to me. Pat shared your email about the Daughters of the American Revolution and your fabulous and so well-earned and deserved recognition. Yes, Skip, sometimes we get a surprise that really surprises us. And it's so serendipitously coincidental that on this glorious holiday of memory, we're both in our backyards, ours in Los Angeles, yours in Cambridge, doing a similar barbecue with 2 of our 9 grandchildren, shortly to be joined by our daughter and son-in-law. Hamburgers and hot dogs, pure Americana, with our grandchildren and our children. 2 families whose ancestors arrived in this country years ago, many more in your case, and who finally, thankfully, can live in freedom, as yet imperfect, but we're all working on that together. Wise words, my friends, so deeply moving and so timely. I can't thank you enough or adequately express the depth of my appreciation for this signal honor, which I accept on behalf of my co-executive producer, Dylan McGee, our series producer, Sabin Streeter, and his incredible production team, the president and CEO of PBS, Paula Kerger, and the president and CEO of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Patricia Harrison. I accept in honor of one of my genuine heroines, Marian Anderson, whose experience with a very different set of your predecessors of this organization, way back in 1939, was a most unfortunate encounter. I accept in honor of my daughters, who are members of the DAR. I accept in honor of my granddaughter, Eleanor Margaret Gates Hatley, whom I hope one day will become a member of this great organization. And finally, I accept this award in honor of my fourth great grandfather, John Redmond, who served our great country so nobly as a free black man, even before our country was a country.